All right, here we go, everyone, with something a little bit different. This is going to be a game to sort of criticize play, to sort of point out what people can do to improve, or also point out what things were done correctly or incorrectly, right or wrong, if you want to even think of it that way. And this was a replay sent in by this player, ohbboh, which I talked to him, and we're gonna go with ohb is how I'm going to pronounce that, just straight up, lop off the last 3 letters of that. But anyway, he wanted me to take a look at his game versus nukebust here, and just basically give him feedback on what he did right, what he did wrong, what he can do to improve. And I would just like to preface this by saying I am not a 1v1 player at all. I never got that much in 1v1. I never got good at all at 1v1. I'd say back when I was more active, I was fairly decent at 2v2, which is what a lot of people say when they don't have good micro like me. But yeah, 1v1, just in terms of like the general practices of 1v1, all I'm doing right now is basically speculating using my AirMech knowledge and experience with just general, basics and, what I know as good habits or not good habits. I'll try to specifically avoid talking about very specific current meta things, because I'd like to try to have these videos extend into the future in terms of like as much as people can learn. And so what I'm going to do is basically just pause a lot and comment on everything. I did take notes for this game, and just comment on every possible thing I could think of that might be worth mentioning right now. So here we go. This is going to be a 1v1. This is a ranked game on Dust. Between the blue player on the left, ohbboh, which is going to be ohb from now on, and his opponent, nukebust, the green player on the right side. Both players are in Helix, so yeah, when you start the game, look at your opponent, because you theoretically, you would have known what map you're already on by matchmaking and all that stuff, the rotation. Shows you the map before you start, so you spot who you're playing. Number one, probably just because it's such a small community, you kind of realize, is this someone that people know, or is this going to be a random person? Or and you also look at their mech and their pilot. In this case, ohbboh and nukebust are in the exact same things. Natasha Helix. So I'm not going to really get too much into specific what he should have expected in this, because the pilot and mech combinations are there's so many of them that could pretty much be an entire tutorial on its own with all the different combinations. So, but either way, your opponent's going to be Helix, and right now ohbboh is not bringing his units out of queue yet. Like usually right now on simple /dust, you would have brought just the standard is to put down at least 1 or 2 of the tanks right here at the border, right here. Set them on T, so you don't have to ferry all the way from here to here, because on Dust, the tiny little, things that you can do to save a little bit of time, like tiny bits of time, it's crazy, and people try to optimize that as much as possible. I'm not going to do too much focusing on nukebust. I'm going to do mostly, what ohb did, and focus mostly on him right now. So yeah, he's grabbing 2 tanks and ferrying. This ferrying time here could have been saved if he just put a couple tanks down before the pregame ended. This positioning of his Longhorn, I like it, especially because he's not playing a bomber. With the backs exposed here, it does give the bomber a little bit of room to hit the back of tanks. This one right here is close enough to the ledge, I think, that the bomber won't be able to like dance really quickly, but a bomber would easily be able to just dance left and right and do a lot of harass and even kill a lot of the incoming infantry, just because that's a bomber. Bomber is very popular choice on Dust nowadays. But yeah, this is pretty good. The backs are not to the creeps. The backs are toward the ledge, so they aren't taking extra damage or anything like that. Right now, you're going to see ohbboh miss a 4th creep pickup, which is, it's obvious. Okay, he should have picked up the 4th creep, but basically the point that I want to make here is that he should, usually just take a little bit of time to make sure you got them all. The need to rush, this huge rush, is probably not worth it, because now he has to go all the way back and ferry, and he will lose a couple extra seconds taking this creep here and dropping it. I like that he placed these behind the tank. So, for example, right now, if these creeps were still in, if the infantry were still in these slots up here, if he put the creeps right here, then they would have taken direct fire from whatever infantry were in these slots right here, and they would have died probably, and he would have had to wait for another creep wave to spawn to be able to take this outpost under his control. So hiding his creeps behind these tanks is actually a really good practice. because it will shield your creeps from getting hit, and after your tanks do all the work, they will be able to just walk straight in, assuming no enemy mech interference. Right now, he queues up another tank, which is not as typical, especially if you already have 3 on the ground. If you start up with 3 Longhorn, right immediately, usually you're going to see players queue up an AA unit or a healing unit, which is because, I mean, you don't really need too mixed of a composition, but like one of each is a very, very typical thing to see. You know, and now he is still waiting for his Longhorn to build. But right when he takes the outpost, he immediately starts the mid-fight, which is good, because he does not hesitate. And on Dust, especially because, like, there's not much risk of much else happening, except he did see nukebust pass by over here. But yeah, there's not much risk of anything else happening. Like on Duel, you have to be a little bit more careful. But he went as fast as possible to the mid-fight, so that's kind of a good thing to get used to. Nukebust is actually dropping a Seeker here, and what you're going to see him do is try to use that Seeker to aid him in focusing down ohbboh over his outpost, which is a very interesting thing. I would like to comment that his focusing is not very good right now. This might have actually worked, especially if you see how low his health gets. This might have actually worked with a little bit of better aim by nukebust. So yeah, and by now, nukebust probably could have killed him. You saw how low ohbboh's life got, right? So like, and ohbboh did notice nukebust here, just trying to focus him down. So you really should try to fire back at least a little bit, just to force the enemy out of the area. That's also one reason that you should make an AA unit right off the bat, or not necessarily right off the bat, but, you know, mixed into your initial group of units. But nukebust is not going to be able to do that great of a focus job right now, so ohbboh does stay alive. And one other thing is, when nukebust dropped that Seeker, ohbboh had plenty of tanks in. Oh, sorry, I keep saying ohbboh because that's okay. So ohbboh has had plenty of Longhorn over here. He could have just dropped one right there, and that would have slowly forced nukebust. That basically would have put you know, its own time limit on this harass that nukebust is doing. Nukebust now is finally getting away, and this is when ohbboh starts to just fire a little bit at him, which could have been happening way sooner. He could have been firing at nukebust the entire time he was ferrying tanks this entire way. It wouldn't have slowed him down that much, so it wasn't that big of a deal, I would say, to fire back at this point. So he's still ferrying nothing but tanks, making nothing but tanks, which is, yeah, just generally not a good idea. One healing unit, one AA unit, because you would have, like, these Longhorn with a little bit of life down, they would have been at completely full health if he started out with one. Like, if this one was a Ratchet or something like that, he would have had 4 tanks and 1 Ratchet down on the field, and it wouldn't have really impeded his progress toward the mid-fight. The T-99 definitely would have died by now. So that's just one thing you'd want to, you know, try to mix in the units that you can. And right here, I do want to point out that he hasn't actually purchased his Helix missiles yet. And he takes a momentary pause to drop this tank in a perfect position, kind of. Not necessarily perfect, but in his desired position. And the reason that he didn't buy his missiles is so he could hold right-click to position his Longhorn, or, you know, any units that he drops in a specific direction, which is what a lot of people do. A lot of people don't buy their primary unit, or primary ability, like with Bomber, with Striker. They don't buy Afterburner sometimes because they don't want to point in that direction. Saucer people sometimes don't buy Blink, which is crazy, but usually not, because Saucer has an instant turn radius kind of thing, doesn't slow too much when it fires. So I would recommend, especially on a map as small as Dust, just to buy it, because you can fire in a specific direction. And although it slows you down a little, yeah, it's not huge. I mean, I've always been someone who fires in a direction to place your units. I haven't really felt the need to, you know, not purchase my primary ability just for that. But then again, I've never been a hardcore 1v1 player. So let's continue. So at this point, we will see him scout. So he's just flying in circles right here. And what he does is he puts 2 Ratchets in queue. And that's probably not necessary. The enemy does not have any artillery out, and he queues up another Ratchet. He does a scout, and he sees there's no artillery down, so he doesn't need to queue 2 Ratchets necessarily. Yes, it doesn't really hurt that much, but you know, a mass of healing units is usually to compensate for Bucky's firing in or artillery firing in, to try to sort of cancel out the damage that they are doing. Right now, a 3rd Ratchet gets queued up. So that's also something. Yeah, by now I would say that's probably not the right choice. An Archie would have been a better choice, and a Seeker would have been a better choice. It wouldn't have allowed nukebust to do so much, like, you know, standing over here, not standing, but floating over here and firing at ohbboh. And you will see him queue up an Archie very, very shortly right there. There you go. And it's a little late. I would say, like, this entire time, if one of these tanks, which he didn't need all of the tanks, probably one of them or two of them could have even been an artillery piece. He could have had them firing in the entire time, doing work on nukebust's units. As you can see, nukebust doesn't have any healers except for a fixer, which probably would have gotten itself killed in an artillery fight anyway. And that's not necessarily saying that this time, yeah, okay, this time this would have been good. But in general, even if he had a couple of healing units down, it would have forced those healing units down instead of allowing him to just mostly concentrate on tanks. And he has 3 Seekers down on the field, which is kind of a lot. And, okay, so he a little while ago, sorry, I didn't mention it, but in my notes I have that he did like this thing where he circled and he got hit by a lot of Seeker missiles after he landed. That's not really something you want to do. If you do, you want to land way behind your units so the Seeker missiles hit them instead of you, generally, depending on how many missiles are firing out. At this point, he puts the first Archie way on the outside, which is usually not a good idea. You want to put your your artillery in the middle of your unit clump typically, because artillery are kind of low on health. They are now about the same value as tanks, the low level of artillery, so you do want to protect them, and they're not nearly as survivable as tanks are. So that's just something that you don't want to do. So he's going to do it again. There you go. You see that? He goes way in front, and he lands, and all those Seeker missiles get drawn toward him. He lands right here because he wants to do a little bit of damage. He maybe sees, like, had these half-health Dillos or something like that, and he takes quite a lot of damage. He's not able to stay there. He's forced to back away, and he's not going to be able to continue that harass. So now he places the next Archie in the middle. And that's good. That's generally a good thing. Maybe he could have placed it a little bit further back. But yeah, generally you want your tanks protecting on the outsides here, and you want your artillery on the inside mixed in with all your healing units. But yeah, tanks on the outside just so you can kind of create that wall. The third Archie, he's going to place way on the outside. Again, not really that optimal. Like, he could have, like, you can aim your artillery by what he's doing is right-clicking now, but you could also fire in. And they all could have been roughly in the same place or a little bit spread out back here. And they all could have been firing on different spots if you wanted to, in the same exact spot if you wanted to. But the point is, you can aim your artillery. So this kind of placement is definitely not necessary to do. And so right now, nukebust drops 2 Dillos at the top right here. To try to snipe this one Archie. And this is what this is. See, ohbboh does not have the missiles yet. He still has not purchased missiles, pretty much because of that desire to micro. The 2 Dillos are, nukebust tried to get this Archie sniped, but he wasn't able to do it. Actually, the Longhorn firing in, and actually Longhorn down here, I think we're also hitting the Dillos. They were not allowing the Dillos to stay there that long, so they weren't able to finish off this Archie. But ohbboh, see, look at that, flying over. See, you can see that health bar. You can see it smoking black too. That's pretty much the dead giveaway. Even before health bars existed, that's what you looked for, the smoke. And he really should be picking it up right now, which he is not. And nukebust is actually ferrying bombs, so these bombs will get the kill on this artillery. Boom, right there. And yeah, that's just something that you really want to keep your eye out for. Your smoking black units, you got to save them as much as possible. He finally queues up some Seekers. He queues up 2, which I don't know if 2 is necessarily, what he needs right now, but at this point, that kind of mixed unit composition shouldn't be, it should be fine. If he's planning on massing and pushing or something like that, which he doesn't look like he is, he looks like he's going to concentrate in artillery war, then yeah, the Seekers, the 2 Seekers is probably a good number, especially in 1v1 against like a non-super tanky mech or anything like that, like a Warthog or a Paladin, that is kind of parted or piloted out for it. And right here again could have been firing his missiles, but he does not have them does not have the abilities purchased. Nukebust stopped shooting these Archies. The Archie right here, he backs out for fear of dying, but there was no AA, so he didn't actually need to do that, and ohbboh didn't even have his missiles, so Nukebust could have even kind of danced back and forth, and Longhorn are very, very easy to avoid, so he wasn't really threatened. He could have just gotten the kill on the Archie probably if he just kept dancing back and forth, but whatever. I guess this Seeker right here was a threat, but it was just one, and it was a neutral Seeker, so it would also maybe have focused on ohbboh. But either way, so what we're going to see now is now he puts down 2 Seekers. Or no, sorry, the 1 Seeker. And there you go. He got that kill on nukebust, largely because a lot of the damage was done by that, that supplementary Seeker that he put down. So just pointing out one of the great reasons to have just one of certain types of units. And at this point, okay, so he could, or he should probably by now, have scouted. And he did. He kind of just flew around over here. But instead, he's just been continually repositioning his units. Right when he got that kill, see, this would have been a really prime opportunity to push. But he did not. He was just repositioning his units as if he's still really behind in the mid-fight, or if he's still really even. Nukebust is going to come back now to the fight and pull back. And yeah, so that would have been a great opportunity to push. There were very, very few units right there. Right when Nukebust died, not only was the unit composition dramatically, and not just the composition, the numbers also in ohbboh's favor, but Nukebust being out of the game at that time would have been able to, you know, it would have allowed ohbboh to do a lot of unimpeded micro. And he's still right now positioning his tanks as if he's still in a mid-fight, which he really isn't, because Nukebust has pulled back already, and he's doing this for a really, really long time. Now starting to ferry his units sort of on the side. He could have just done like a push on Y or T and stopped his units with a mass select here. Something like that. There's not too much over here threatening. It's just one Bucky, and even if there was like Archies or something pointed in, just in terms of the pure numbers, ohbboh, and he's not really scouting here. He really should just kind of move out and scout probably. So he waits for this roller to move out, and I don't really agree with that. Like, he had plenty of units. He could have and as a Helix, he can grab 2 or 3. I'm not exactly sure, but by level 4, does he have it? No, he has no carry upgrades, but he can grab at least 2 Longhorn and probably an additional Ratchet at this time. I'm not 100% on that. Let's see, at least the 2 Longhorn though. So he would have been able to ferry up really, really fast. And just, you know, pick up, drop, pick up, drop. It's something that you really get used to, that circular motion. And, yeah, that's just something that I would have recommended at this point. Oh, and actually, I'm just talking way too much. Nukebust this entire time was making a unit clump up here, and he just sent them out like maybe 5 seconds ago. And ohbboh still hasn't seen it. Okay, he sees it now. I'm guessing he sees it now, but he still hasn't like brought back anything reactionary. He brings back a roller, which is a very interesting choice. He had plenty of tanks over here, and he didn't need them all sitting right here. I don't know why he wanted to make such a strong wall. I don't even know if he scouted these to see really what was there, to see what was necessary to put up there. But yeah, once again, scout to see what you need to put up there. And he brings back a roller. At this point, when you're seeing a small push come for your close outposts on almost any map, you would sort of go to your or start building your go-to reactionary units, which usually is something like bombs, boomers, certain infantry that you can immediately bunker or spam to take fire, draw fire away from, and do some damage like Morty or Sam or something like that. But in this case, he probably, the go-to units in his loadout at this point are probably Dillo or Butcher, something like that. I like using Butchers in cases like this. They have a lot of survivability. You can you know, land with them. But he decides to put down a roller, and he puts the roller down here, which is a little bit interesting to see. Usually see someone put it at the bottleneck here or here to impede the progression of the units coming in. But and actually right now, what you're going to see him do, hold on, let me move to my notes real quick. Okay, this, at this point, he still has not purchased missiles, and he could just ward Nukebust away right now. The kill at this point would have been tremendous, but he's not able to do it. Instead, he's kind of pulling away, and instead of killing his units, killing Nukebust's units or taking care of whatever he could, he's concentrating on taking this outpost back, which is fine, but he wasn't able to get the first creep in. And Nukebust did not even switch to T. He had to ferry his units up. I'm not really sure why he didn't do the switch to T. It's a very easy thing to do, but he just did a couple of ferrying and set on C, and this allowed him to take this outpost under his control. And right now you're going to see ohbboh move out from mid, which he probably should have done when he saw Nukebust move out in the first place, just because he, you know, at this point you're kind of aware of how many units are on the field, who has what where, and a lot of Nukebust's units were dedicated up here to move out. So ohbboh was pretty safe, or I'm saying it again, it's ohbboh. Ohbboh was very, very safe to move out all these units, and this is very, very little, and this entire time actually the artillery was working on these units sitting over here. And so, yeah, now we're kind of in a base race position. Nukebust does not start to drop or move out yet. Actually, he allowed ohbboh to fly over here, reposition his stuff, and send his units out. And Nukebust still has not started doing a fort assault yet until right about now, which is actually a pretty high delay. ohbboh not putting his units in blocking position, which I would kind of recommend against at this point. Why not block? Because you have pretty much infinite, infinite healing from the fort, and yeah, he drops them in killing position instead of blocking. It's a case-by-case basis sometimes, but in this case, there's no real harm in trying to block, especially because nukebust, and I'm very surprised to see nukebust not pushing out here. That's kind of one thing you'd want to take advantage of, especially being this close. And he is a helix. He would have been able to do a lot of repositioning. And right now, ohbboh giving up, not really giving up, but not continuing with the fort defense. He just moves out with his Dillos, which is fine. He had Dillos in queue, so he could have dropped a couple of those Dillos in defensive position. He leaves a couple of them here. You usually want 1 or 2 blocking the corners and then kind of scattered all around. And he would have been able to pick up a couple of these Dillos here at mid, and that would have been pretty much the same thing. I mean, he didn't even really need these Dillos at this point. And nukebust is going to try to come back and defend, but at this point it's going to be way too late. ohbboh's putting, I'm saying again, ohbboh is putting Longhorn on the corners, which isn't actually necessary in this state of the game. The corners are at -60 or -40. I'm not really sure. I keep forgetting the actual number. But fort sides are 90, which is the same as the Longhorn weapon, I think. I might be wrong on that. It might be 85. But either way, the Longhorn don't need to be on the corners. They are completely fine on the sides. And if he instead of clumping over here, like if nukebust had bombs, which he does, and if he was queuing them up, which he isn't, but if he was, that's kind of dangerous to do. A nice spread would have been nice with Longhorn. If you have Gemini or Dillo, yeah, probably want to clump them on the side to get as much damage as you possibly can. But in this case, with Longhorn, you want to spread them out as much as you possibly can. You don't need to have them on the corner. But this is actually going to be the end of the game. Nukebust is not going to be able to defend against this, and ohbboh just doing a little bit more micro, focusing on the corner, which is good practice, but just in this specific case, not something that he needed to concentrate on. But there you go. ohbboh taking this ranked 1v1 win over nukebust. So guys, I'm not really sure how beneficial this kind of video is for the experienced players. Obviously, the experienced players know almost everything that I have said or more, just because I don't play 1v1. I don't really have all the intricacies that you guys are aware of. But yeah, if anyone watching wants to comment on things that he should have done, things that he did right, things that he did wrong, please include the in-game timestamp in your comment at this should have happened, and let's discuss this game. And if you guys want to see more of this, let me know. I don't know how, again, it's not probably going to be beneficial to the experienced players, but to mid-tier to low-tier players or new players, maybe this kind of thing would be good. I don't know how in-depth I should get. I don't know how low-level I should get or how basic I should get. So please give me feedback. Let me know what you think and what you might want to see in these types of videos, and I will try to be as overly critical of you as possible. If anyone wants me to do these for your games, to tell you what I think, and this is what I want to emphasize, it's just what I think that you can improve on, things that you might have wanted to do better, things that you might have wanted to do instead. Send me the replay and let me know that, hey, this was a mid-tier game. Maybe this was even a 2-star Mavericks level game. But, let me know if I can do something better. Tell me what key things I might have done wrong. And who knows, maybe this will be a beneficial thing to do for the community. So, yeah, guys, let me know. Give me some feedback. This is the first time I've done anything like this, overly critical. And this is RUI, and that is game. See you next time.